It's Friday, and that means it's time for... Thank you, audience. Our panelists today are MSNBC contributor Joy-Ann Reid, comedian and actor John Fugelsang, and senior reporter for HollywoodLife.com, Chole Melas. Welcome, all of you. Okay, so, wow, lots to talk about this week. Our first topic is... bridge game. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, of course, apologized yesterday to the state. An email revealed that members of his staff had concocted a closure of lanes to the on the George Washington Bridge last September as political payback. So he says he knew nothing about it. Okay, Joy, have at it.
Well, first of all, the press conference was endless. I don't think I've seen a
Wasn't it over 2 hours?
It was about close to 2 hours.
108 minutes.
108 minutes of continual talk time. But what's, you know, that could be good in the sense that I think he was trying to run out the clock and sort of make people lose interest over the course of the hour and a half. But at the same time, you now have a class action lawsuit that's being filed by half a dozen people from Bergen County who were inconvenienced in that huge, massive shutdown of the bridges. That means discovery. That means information could come out. That means all of that 108 minutes is discoverable in that lawsuit, and then you have a potential federal investigation. So there's talking to try to get the media to be sort of numbed into a sense of, you know, forget about all of this. And then there's lawsuits where people can discover what you've said and then potentially use it.
So the story is definitely not going away. Chloe, how did he come off to you? Because some people are saying, hey, he was contrite, apologetic, he did what he needed to do, and other people are just ripping him to shreds.
Right, so we were all talking about this before the show. It's kind of like, you know, when you confront a boyfriend or something, you're trying to get them to tell you the truth, and then they just keep talking and talking and talking, and you almost feel like, does it make them seem a little bit guilty? I can say that after the first hour, I sort of lost interest in, you know, the apology. I thought that he could have wrapped it up sooner, but I spoke to two different people who are, you know, in the political world and analysts who told me that he needed to go up there and speak for that long to answer questions, look vulnerable, not this stereotyped bully that people have said that he is. But I think, though, Katie, we have two major problems here, because either he looks like he's corrupt because he knew about it, if that is the case, or he looks as though maybe he's incompetent, that he doesn't know what his own staff is doing. So unfortunately, though, because I've always liked Chris Christie, I feel like it's a lose-lose situation for him, and it's definitely a sad situation.
Well, what do you think, John? Do you think he's politically cooked, or is this a bump in the road on the way to the GW Bridge?
He's not cooked at all, although I do agree he came off like a cheating husband. I want to apologize and then spend 2 hours telling you why I did nothing wrong. But, you know, he did throw his aide under the bus. Fortunately, the bus was 4 hours late because the bridge was shut down, so she's fine. I do think that this will haunt him for a while, but Americans have an attention span like the guy from Memento. I mean, it's not for another 3 years, this election. That's 34,000 years in American attention span. I do think that Governor Christie is interesting, and that's why the press corps loves him, and he will survive this no matter how guilty he winds up looking.
Okay, all right, next. Secretary of Offense. Former Defense Secretary Robert Gates has a new memoir coming out next week. It's already making huge headlines. Joy, I was struck by how stunningly candid this memoir is. What's your take?
Well, I mean, it's not completely unprecedented. Paul O'Neill, the former Treasury Secretary in the George W. Bush administration, wrote a really scathing book about that administration. I think we're not used to hearing this level of candor from someone so recently in such a grave and important job as Defense Secretary while the president is still in office. So I think it is sort of stunning, the candor. I mean, he really ripped Congress to shreds. I don't think anybody disagreed with what he said.
And there wasn't anything positive about Congress. I mean, when it came to President Bush and President Obama, there were positives and negatives about both.
Exactly.
Not about Congress.
He had some good things to say. He said that President Obama was right about policy. He said he had too many misgivings for his taste about the war in Afghanistan. When it came to Joe Biden and Congress, highly negative, and I think probably the most sensitive point for the administration was Biden.
And you were surprised that he was so, in some ways, anti-military intervention.
Well, yeah, I mean, his fierce... I haven't read the book. I'm waiting for Amazon to deliver it by drone. But, you know, I was surprised. I wasn't surprised by the scathing criticism of Biden, but Joe Biden's Barack Obama's assassination policy. No one's going to take a shot at him when you've got the crazy liberal with plugs who's waiting next in line. But he did have his fiercest criticism for the culture of the Pentagon, and the book does go on for like 700 pages. I think Chris Christie wrote it, but he does say that America is perceived around the world as being a trigger-happy nation that starts fights and goes where they're not welcome. The fact that a defense secretary would say this in his memoir shows how we're being perceived, and that's much more important than the politics.
In our next segment, we're going to talk about pop culture, but first, let's talk about someone who kind of bridges both worlds. basketball diplomacy. All right, why does Dennis Rodman keep going to North Korea? What the heck is going on here, Chloe?
I just wish, though, that there was a way that we could keep Dennis Rodman from going to North Korea, because just someone who covers Hollywood and celebrities day in and day out, I just feel like there's so many other better celebrities that could be over there if they're going to try to bridge that gap. I'm not talking about Chris Christie, but bridge that gap, though, with our issues with North Korea. I just feel as though, you know, he knew that he was drunk before going on CNN and doing that press conference type of interview, that he and his teammates should have said, hey, you shouldn't be going on TV and making a fool of what we are trying to accomplish over there. So I definitely think that it was the wrong move, but look, it's Dennis Rodman. What can we expect?
All right.
I love it when the right people find each other. I think it will be a bit awkward the day that Kim Jong-un holds a gun to Dennis Rodman's head and takes him hostage, and America has to pretend we care.
Okay, on that note, up next, our Golden Globes preview. That's right after this. So we've been talking about the week that was with Chloe Melas, John Fugelsang, and Joy Ann Reid. And now our pop culture topics. First up, Saturday Night Fever. SNL just announced a new cast member, Sashir Zamata, which has opened up a heated conversation about diversity on the show. So, Chloe, set the stage for us. Give us some sort of the backstory.
Yes, all right. Well, SNL came under fire, you know, by the American public for people felt like the show just wasn't diverse enough. And, you know, there hadn't been a woman of color in about 6 years since Maya Rudolph. And Lorne Michaels, the creator of SNL, said, look, we're going to hold auditions, and we are going to find, you know, the perfect woman of color, an African-American woman, to join the show. So they found Sashir, and then they found 2 other African-American women that will be writers for the show. So this is great, but a lot of people are saying, why did it take, you know, the American public backlash to make you guys finally hold a very special audition?
So, Joy, why are people so irked by this? Because I think some people might think, well, they should be applauded by being more diverse.
Well, I mean, we wrote stories about this as well, and there really was a lot of upset. I mean, 5 years into the administration of the first African-American president, you still had the First Lady being portrayed, you know, by one of the male comedians in drag, right? So that you didn't have the ability to
Who said, I don't want to be dressed up as Michelle Obama anymore. That was part of the impetus for
Kenan
this, wasn't
Thompson,
it?
right, exactly. But he also made some controversial comments about, well, maybe there aren't enough African-American women comedians who are qualified or capable of being funny enough to be on the show. So there was a lot of sort of upset over this idea that, you know, for instance, when Kerry Washington went on the show, really knocked it out of the park. It really brought home how important it is to have a funny lady on there that could actually do some of the skits herself. She had to literally, in one skit, play Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama, and like every other black woman who ever lived. And it was, they were like, well, then, you know, duh, you might need to hire a comedian or two.
And meanwhile, John, a lot of pressure on Sashir, you know, now that she is taking on this role.
Indeed, as a performer and a writer, and I'm sure she'll do fine. It's a good stepping stone for her. I'm more upset than a TV show that there's no black women in the entire United States Senate. To me, that's a bigger deal. But Lorne Michaels did this, and he created 3 new jobs, and that's more than the Congress has done in 5 years. So.
Right. Okay. And speaking of SNL, our final topic is Golden Girls. This weekend, SNL alums Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are bringing their girl power back to host the Golden Globes for the 2nd year in a row. So first of all, let's just say we love Teeny. We love Tina and Amy, and it's so great to see these strong women, you know, be asked to come back, because that's a tough role, isn't it, John, to be hosting the Golden Globes? That's a lot of pressure.
It is, but they're both great writers, and they both have great personas. And, you know, I predict we're going to see the greatest achievements in acting in television and film put up there so people can talk about what clothes people are wearing. That's how these things go.
It's important, okay? People care.
No, it's the 2nd biggest night in all of Hollywood. It's great.
So what are your predictions? I mean, what sort of films are you excited about, TV shows? Because it's sort of all of them, you know, so... I'm excited that Breaking Bad's going to be celebrated, right?
Yeah, I agree with you that I think Breaking Bad is going to do very well in its category, but also House of Cards. I think we could see probably Robin Wright finally getting rewarded. But I think this is the year of 12 Years a Slave. I predict it will have a big night, that Chiwetel Ejiofor is my odds-on favorite. Maybe it's just wishful thinking to win Best Actor. And then the film Her with Joaquin Phoenix, which I think is also a big favorite and an odds-on favorite.
He was great in that.
Right, and when those 2 guys potentially face each other in the same category in the Academy Awards, that could be very interesting.
Oh, Chloe, Chloe, what about you?
Okay, well, I'm going to take the flip side a little bit, and I'm going to root for the underdog. I went to Auburn, so I always feel like I'm kind of rooting for the underdog here. I'm going to say that, yes, I believe that you're right, that it is the year of 12 Years a Slave, but I loved Captain Phillips. I thought Tom Hanks was great. I think that maybe there's a dark horse that will happen, and then Captain Phillips will win. And then I'm also going to say I saw Long Walk to Freedom with Idris Elba, and I was just absolutely rocked to my core. I loved it, and especially, you know, Mandela just passed away, and it's a very interesting timing that the movie's coming out. But I must say that what if Idris Elba wins? How great would that be? And I would love that. He's great on The Wire too. So.
And the new U2 song is nominated for the Mandela movie as well. So it's nice that they're coming back.
Yes.
The people I root for usually don't win. I would love to see Lupita Nyong'o win Best Supporting Actress for 12 Years a Slave. I think every actor of any gender can learn a lot from her performance. I'd love to see Redford do it, age 75. He only has one word he says on camera the whole movie, and I can't say it here, and it's a great performance. But I think I'm rooting for Robin Wright the most. It's been 27 years, Katie, since Princess Bride. And in that time, she's done so many great performances, never been recognized.
She is so terrific in that show,
wonderful
too,
to see her be
isn't
honored
she?
for it. Yeah,
I'm rooting for Cate Blanchett. I mean, from Blue Jasmine, I think she was remarkable. The movie came out a while ago, so it feels like people have forgotten a little bit
That was
about
like if Blanche Dubois was in a Cassavetes film. It's an incredible role. It's so well written, and she's dynamite.
That's too highbrow for
There
me.
is something to point out, though, that Wolf of Wall Street is up against American Hustle, and American Hustle, I believe, has about 10 nominations, and everybody's talking about it. I saw it. I thought it was good, but I'm telling you, I think Wolf of Wall Street could win for the category of Best Musical or Comedy, yet it's not really either.
All 5 films are not musicals or comedies.
I know, the categories are very bizarre, but that won't keep us from watching
They'll win Best
the show.
Excessive Orgies and Drugs, I think.
Chloe, John, and Joy, thanks to all 3 of you for coming by today. It's fun to talk to you always. Thanks. And coming up, I'm very excited about this as well. There's a brand new Carole King musical on Broadway. We're giving you a sneak peek when we come back.